Welcome everyone. In today's video we go over how to create off-grid enemies, items, and blocks. The first one is not really glitchy at all, it just uses normal mechanics in the game, but the rest are very glitchy using black hole, GGT, and other things. The off-center, the off-grid blocks, the hard blocks, are very interesting and very glitchy, so make sure you stick around for those. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's dive in. Now we're going to play with creating an off-grid thwomp. So in the past, in order to get a thwomp over to the right half a block, what you would have to do is put an enemy underneath it and then find a way to despawn that enemy. So say, for example, if I put a hard block behind this enemy right here, the muncher right here will despawn and the thwomp will be half a block over to the right. But there's a block underneath it, which is less than ideal. So what you would have to do is put a bomb underneath it, put a bomb right next to this muncher, and then put the thwomp over top of it, take a hard block to the right, and put wings on it. So what will happen in this scenario is the muncher will despawn immediately as soon as the scene starts. The block will crush this bomb up against the other block, removing both of the hard blocks, leaving only a thwomp standing still in the middle right there. So we have a thwomp that's half a block over to the right, which is kind of interesting. Now we can do something a little bit different to accomplish the same thing. The only difference really is that we have to have an enemy on top of the thwomp itself. So if I take a muncher and put it on top like that, and I delete these two, I can actually multi-grab the two things underneath it, the muncher and the hard block. I can apply wings to them, and when I do that, the muncher will fall away and die. And now this hard block doesn't matter anymore, and the thwomp is still half a block over to the right, centered like that. We do need this enemy on top of it for some reason, unfortunately, but we can create a freestanding thwomp that's half a block over to the right using that method, which is pretty interesting. So that would be a way to do that using normal mechanics in the video game. Little glitch, but normal mechanics. Now we're going to create an off-grid clown car using GGT, the genie tech. We first need to create a black hole. New black hole world record, just place a track right there. Place a thwomp, make them all big. Put a claw on the track like that. Place a hammer bro into him. Make him big. Start, stop, and then undo 3 times. And you have your black hole. This one's a lot more stable than the previous black hole world record holder. Just make sure you keep this track around because the thwomp thinks it's on it. Now we can go ahead and copy that thwomp 50 times. Now that we have our black hole, we're going to create our off-grid clown car. Take a pipe, copy that beast, throw something into that pipe, delete it, copy that original pipe over to the black hole, undo twice. Now I'm going to have to move this black hole out of here because I want to pull this pipe out of here. Place down a clown car, take that spike and throw it in the clown car, delete these 2 pipes, copy this pipe over here. Now I'm going to take this pipe and throw it into the bottom right corner of the thwomp, the black hole. Take a clown car, place it into that, and undo. Now I'm going to take this pipe out of here. You see that the clown car is in the pipe, but the spike is still in the black hole. Take the black hole, move it again. When I take this spike and move it around, the clown car will go out of the pipe. So we now have a clown car that's freestanding in the air right here. I can delete this pipe and delete everything around it. This is an off-grid, safe clown car. We just have to delete the black hole and all of that. But this is a clown car that's off-grid using a black hole and the GGT game genie tech. Now we are going to create an off-grid tomato. We're going to place down a pipe like that and place a tomato inside of the pipe. I delete the pipe and then draw another pipe into the top of a black hole. Now I undo twice and you see the original comes back. I take the pipe out of that black hole like so. I'm going to take this tomato who is in front of the pipe right now instead of inside of it. Take him out of there, delete the original, and when I move the one that I took out of the black hole, the Galoomba, the tomato will go back into the pipe, and when I set it down, it'll be off-grid to the right a little bit. And this is savable. You can delete this pipe, and the Goomba will stay off-grid like that. One cool thing about this is you can make it rain Goombas. It's raining tomatoes! So you can do that. If you take a tomato and put it on top of this tomato, it'll actually be off-grid as well. So you can't really stack it, but it'll be off-grid. This is savable. You can use this in a level. In order to copy this off-grid tomato, what you have to do is you have to actually put an enemy underneath it and then grow it. Because what that will do is it'll create a stack between this off-grid enemy and this grown tomato down here. And then you can multi-grab it and then copy it over to the left or to the right. And now you have multiple off-grid small tomatoes that you can use at your disposal. When you delete the enemy underneath it, it'll go back to the right like that. So you have multiple off-grid tomatoes here. Now we are going to create off-grid blocks. We're going to get a block, a turn block specifically, off-grid in the middle of 4 blocks like this. And when you do that, there are very interesting things, very buggy and glitchy things that happen with it. So in order to create it, we're going to use a track. We can do this with any block we can put on a track. Create a track and put a curve into it and then copy that. We're going to put a turn block on a track like this. Then I'm going to delete it and copy this track over into the black hole. Undo twice, and then we can grab this track and move it around. When we move this track around, the block will go behind it. We take this off and then move it again. It'll be behind the rail like that. I can delete these two because they don't matter anymore. And now we have a block that's off-center behind the rail. So I can delete the rail and the block will stay there. And as you see, if I hover over the block right there, the blue square is actually in the top right. And so this block is in the middle of all 4 of these tiles, but it doesn't behave as such. When you start the scene, the block goes into the top right, but it's still in the middle. So I can stand right here where the block really technically is. If I hit this block, the turn block, it will come back. The visual comes back, but as soon as it goes solid, it goes away again. So this is very, very strange, very buggy. Check out this other behavior. I'm going to take these 2 ice blocks and put them underneath that so they're overlaid like this. When I destroy this invisible block, this invisible turn block, it's actually going to turn the bottom left ice block invisible as well. So I'd break that block and now I'm standing on nothing. I'm standing on the ice block that's just not there anymore. It is still active. So say, for example, if I give him a firepower and I delete that, I can still turn this into a coin like that, which is very, very strange. If we put something inside of this, say I put something inside like that, when I hit this block from underneath, that enemy is going to spawn and it's going to change the visual of the top right of like the shadow block. It's going to change the visual of it like that, which is very strange as well. So I'm standing on the hard block that is not active anymore because the enemy came out of it. And if I take this bomb and set it on it, the block will blow up. And now it won't be there anymore. And the clone, the shadow of it, is still there. That visual is still active. So this whole entire situation with this off-grid block is very buggy, to say the least. Interesting things happen if you make a donut block be off-center like this, and you use another donut block next to it. You won't see the middle one, because that disappears for whatever reason. The top right one is a phantom. Every time I touch the middle one, the bottom left one disappears, and then they'll both be gone, but if you touch the bottom left one again, it reappears. If I touch the middle one, it disappears, and this one will fall down, and then it will grow and then be invisible. The other one grows and is active and fine. Very strange behavior here. If I take this donut block and replace it with a turn block, the same kind of thing happens. When I touch the donut block, the turn block will disappear, like that. If I hit the turn block, it will turn, and then it will be visible again. All very weird. Okay, just one last example with this whole situation. The off-grid blocks. We can take burners and make them off-grid as well. So here's a little burner system, and when we do that, we can actually place things underneath it, and they won't despawn. The burner is actually in the center of those 4 blocks, so it doesn't act the same way that hard blocks act. So right here, I'll stand on it like normal. Now, if I put something over in the top right of this tile that can actually overlay, like say a hidden block or a donut block, that donut block will disappear when the scene starts, and these blocks underneath it won't do anything buggy either. So if I start the scene right here, you see that one is merged with the other 2. I can jump on it and everything is fine, like this. If I jump on the donut block, it will appear. And then it will stay visible. so it'll come back in a visible state. These are all very interesting, weird properties with off-grid blocks. You can also use the previous method to get enemies off-grid, similar to what we did with the Galumba and the pipe, the tomato and the pipe. So again, curved track, copy it, place an enemy on the curved track, delete that, copy it over to the black hole, undo twice, take that out of there, take the enemy off the track, and then move it again. Then we can delete the rails, and you'll see that we have an enemy, the Mecha Koopa, that's off-grid. We can delete the rail, and it's off-grid. Now we can move this even further off-grid, placing it between 4 tiles by putting an enemy underneath it and putting another enemy on the stack of the one that's off-grid, like so. And now when we put something underneath that, it will manipulate how the enemy moves around. So if I take a Thwomp right here and place it underneath, it will place the enemy over to the left a little bit. So now these are 2 stacked enemies in between 6 tiles. So this is severely off-grid here, which is very, very cool. We can also do the same thing with Thwomps to create even more off-grid Thwomps. So same exact process. So now we have an off-grid Thwomp like this. This Thwomp is off of the grid in between 6 tiles. We can delete this rail behind it, and this is a much better version of an off-grid Thwomp than the one we did at the beginning of the video without the black hole. And again, you can manipulate where it is by stacking it and then moving the stack. So say I place a Thwomp right here, place another Thwomp in between these 2, delete the original. If I take a small enemy and put it at the bottom, I can take these 2 Thwomps and put them in between all of these tiles. So this is a very severely off-grid Thwomp system. If I delete this Thwomp will go back to normal. If I take an enemy, like a normal one, a small one, and put it underneath it, it'll go back to being stuck between 6 tiles. It is still off-grid, but it's not off-grid as much as this version is. When I go like this and then put a smaller enemy underneath it. So these 2 Thwomps are very off-grid, much more off-grid than the previous one. Using the black hole.